I was 17 when I was officially kicked out, not with a dramatic fight or some tear-filled showdown, but with a suitcase, a smirk, and a door slammed in my face like the final act of a bad high school play. "You'll be back begging in a month," my mom said, all glossy lips and condescension. "You don't have a clue how the world works." My dad didn't even look at me. Just stood by the front door like a bouncer ejecting an unruly club-goer. When I tried to speak, to say something, anything, he opened the door wide and jerked his head toward the driveway. Then slam. Just like that, I was no longer their child. I was a lesson. A warning. A walking cautionary tale for my younger brother Caleb, about what happens when you question authority, when you ask for fairness, when you challenge the golden child narrative. It wasn't about drugs, crime, or anything dramatic. It was about a scholarship. See, I got into a college out of state, a full ride. One that wasn't the Ivy League pipeline they were grooming Caleb for. When I told them I'd accepted it because it covered tuition, housing, everything, they acted like I'd spit in the family legacy. "That's not a real school," my dad barked. "It's a cop-out. You'll regret this," my mother had added, like she was cursing me. But I didn't regret it. Not at first. The regret crept in weeks later, cold, slow, and cruel, when I was sleeping in a shared dorm lounge because I couldn't afford the deposit for student housing, eating instant noodles 3 meals a day, and applying to every part-time job I could find within walking distance. I took on 2 jobs, dishwasher by morning, campus janitor by night. No support. No calls. No birthday card. Not even a, "How are you?" Meanwhile, Caleb's Instagram was full of steak dinners and ski trips, every weekend another bonding trip, with our parents. I didn't beg. I broke. And then I rebuilt. I started a side hustle fixing laptops for students. It grew into freelance tech work. By senior year, I was tutoring computer science majors on coding problems, and getting paid more than my janitor gig ever offered. I graduated at 21 with zero debt and a resume stacked with work experience. At 23, I was already leading a small dev team for a startup in Chicago. At 25, I launched my own. By 26, I had 3 full-time employees and 2 interns. And at 27, my company got acquired for mid-7 figures. I moved into a penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows. My fridge was always stocked. My bed no longer doubled as my dining table. And I'd started writing checks to my future instead of tearing up overdue bills. I didn't even realize how much I'd changed until I got a text from an unknown number one Thursday afternoon while reviewing a new product prototype. "Hey, it's Caleb. Can we talk?" And that's when I saw it. Missed calls. 23 of them. My voicemail? Full. My phone? Blowing up with messages that ranged from, "Please call us back. We're worried about you. We just want to reconnect," to the one that made my blood run cold. "We need your help. Please." 9 years of silence. Now they were desperate. And that is where everything started unraveling. I didn't reply to Caleb's text. Not immediately. Instead, I opened my voicemail and started listening. First message was from my mom, her voice syrupy sweet with a weird tremble underneath. "Sweetheart, it's Mom. I know it's been a while, but we miss you. Please call us back. It's important." Click. Next. "Jason, it's your father. I think it's time we talk. Like adults." That made me laugh out loud in the middle of my glass-walled office. Like adults? The last time we talked, I was 17, and he tossed me out like I was the leftovers he forgot in the back of the fridge. Next voicemail was Caleb. "Hey, man. Look, I know we haven't spoken in years, and that's on us. But I really need to talk to you. Please. It's serious." The only thing serious about Caleb growing up was his ability to seriously disappoint. The last time I saw him, he looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're gonna be one of those losers who peak at 18 and still live off energy drinks." Now, I was sipping espresso in a $3,000 chair while he was asking for a callback like I was his lawyer. So I did what any sane person would do after 9 years of silence. I didn't answer. I dug. I started with Caleb's socials. What was public anyway? His flashy finance job? Gone. Replaced with grainy photos of him working at some consulting agency that looked more like a pyramid scheme wrapped in a suit and tie filter. His fiancée? Also gone. There was a long-winded post about starting over and chasing authenticity. Code for crash and burn. Then I looked up my parents' home. The one they'd refused to co-sign a loan for when I was a freshman, claiming I needed to learn independence. Sold. Foreclosed, actually. 5 months ago. I leaned back in my chair, staring out at the skyline, thinking about how fast the mighty fall when they stop having a scapegoat to blame everything on. They'd built a house of cards on the back of Caleb's potential. And now it had collapsed. I waited 3 days before finally replying to Caleb's text. Me. I heard you've been calling. What do you need? The dots appeared instantly. Then vanished. Then again. He was either writing a novel, or trying to figure out how to ask for something without actually saying it. Caleb. Can we meet in person? Please. Just you and me. No pressure. Just want to talk. I agreed. Out of curiosity. Out of spite. Out of a small, cynical part of me that wanted to see what desperation looked like on the face that used to smirk at my hand-me-down shoes. We met at a diner. Not a fancy one. The same diner I used to mop floors at when I was 18, praying no one I knew walked in and saw me wearing a hairnet. He was already there when I walked in, clean-cut, jittery, overdressed like he was trying to cosplay as successful. He stood up too fast when he saw me. Jason. I nodded. Sat down. The silence lasted longer than it should have. He ordered a water. I got black coffee. Then he leaned forward and started with the line I expected least. You were right. I raised an eyebrow. He kept going. About Mom. About Dad. About everything. He told me everything. How Dad pressured him into law school even when he wanted to study marketing. How Mom managed every dollar like it was hers, even when he started earning his own money. How he made one bad investment after another trying to live up to the myth of being the family's savior. He'd taken out loans in his name. Used Mom and Dad's advice. Gotten burned. Hard. Now he was deep in debt. No house. No job. His fiancée left him when she realized she'd be marrying into a financial disaster with mommy issues. I didn't say anything for a long moment. Then I asked the obvious. So why call me now? He didn't hesitate. Because you're the only one who ever made it out. I nearly spit out my coffee. Out of what? The house? No. Out of them. He looked haunted. Like he just admitted something dark and ugly. Like I wasn't just his brother anymore. I was a mirror showing him who he could have been if he hadn't let them pull the strings. He wasn't asking for money. Not yet. He was asking for something else. For help escaping the very people who shaped him. For the first time. I actually pitied him. And I knew, right then, that this wasn't just a story about a golden child falling. It was about what happens when the scapegoat refuses to play along anymore. And how terrified they all get when you stop being the quiet one who walked away. Do they know you're meeting me? I asked Caleb. He shook his head slowly. If they did, I wouldn't have made it out the front door. That said everything. They were still them. Still controlling. Still pretending the house hadn't crumbled even as the roof collapsed in real time. Caleb stirred his water with his straw like it might reveal the answers. They think you owe them something, he said quietly. I leaned back, arms crossed. They kicked me out. I know, he whispered. But they're rewriting history. Saying you ran off. That you abandoned them. Typical. Classic. Revisionist family history where the black sheep is also the scapegoat and the villain all at once. He added, They told our relatives you were in rehab. That made me laugh. Hard. I've never even smoked a cigarette, let alone needed detox. Caleb didn't laugh. They needed a story. One where they were the victims. One where you failed. And now? They're desperate, he said. The house is gone. Dad's credit is shot. Mom maxed out 2 of your old cards. Still under your name, apparently. Student ones? My blood ran cold. That was the final puzzle piece I didn't know I was missing. That's why they were calling. They weren't looking for their son. They were looking for a lifeline. Through my name. Through my history. Through the very identity they threw out like garbage almost a decade ago. I pulled out my phone and logged into my credit monitoring app. One of the accounts I hadn't used since college. It was showing an outstanding balance of $7,248. Opened 5 years ago. Under my name. A card I'd cut up and canceled the day I graduated. Or so I thought. I looked at Caleb. He didn't have to say anything. His face said it all. I stood up. Where are they living now? He hesitated. Some rental 2 hours out. They don't go out much. I threw some cash on the table and said, Text me the address. I'm going to pay them a visit. Jason, wait, don't. But I was already walking out the door. They didn't recognize my car. I made sure of that. Pulled into the driveway like I belonged there. Saw the overgrown lawn, the broken blinds in the front window. They were hiding. Not from me. From life. The door opened a crack when I knocked. Then it opened fully. My mother stood there in a faded bathrobe. Her hair a mess. Her eyes wide with something between hope and fear. Jason. She reached for me like we were about to have a lifetime movie moment. I didn't budge. Can I come in? She stepped aside, and I walked into the house like a ghost stepping into his old skin. Everything smelled the same, fake citrus, old coffee, and denial. My father was on the couch. When he saw me, his mouth tightened like he'd just bitten into something sour. Didn't expect to see you, he muttered. I bet, I replied flatly. We sat in the living room in silence. They waited for me to speak. To make it easy. I didn't. Finally, my mom cleared her throat. We were just talking about you. I smiled thinly. That's funny. So was my lawyer. The room dropped 5 degrees. She blinked. You're what? I pulled out my phone. Opened the credit card app. Showed her the balance. The name. The fraudulent charges. You opened this using my name, I said. My social. My credit. She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. You said I'd come back begging in a month. I didn't. So you made sure I'd suffer anyway. You left me with the damage even from a distance. My dad stood up now, his chest puffed like the decades hadn't passed. We did what we had to do for the family. I am not your emergency fund, I said. I was a kid. You kicked me out because I wouldn't do what you wanted. You wanted me to fail. You needed me to. And when I didn't, you borrowed my name. You're overreacting, he said like I was 5 again and crying over a broken toy. But this wasn't a toy. This was identity theft. This was years of my life, my effort, my late nights eating off-brand cereal while building a business from scratch. And they tried to quietly leech off of it. Here's what's going to happen, I said calmly. I've already frozen the accounts. I'm filing a report. But if you give me signed statements admitting what you did, and you agree to pay it back, I won't press charges. They both exploded at once. You're turning your back on us. You ungrateful brat. We raised you. You left me. I snapped. You left me, remember? At 17. With a suitcase. With a smug smile and a slammed door. You made your decision. And now I'm making mine. I stood up. Their faces pale. I turned toward the door, but before I left I added. Oh, and Caleb told me everything. I know about the stories. The lies. The he's in rehab fantasy. I looked right at my mom. You might have raised a liar. But it wasn't me. I closed the door softly. Didn't slam it. Didn't need to. This time, I was the one leaving. But I wasn't running away. I was walking forward, head held high, and a lawyer on speed dial. It only took 5 business days for my lawyer to confirm what I already knew. The credit card was opened using my identity. Application forged. Signature mimicked. Address traced back to that rundown rental. No mystery, no nuance. Just fraud, committed by the same people who told me I wasn't worth their investment. But even with that knowledge, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired. Tired in a way only betrayal can make you. My lawyer, a guy named Avery who dressed like every courtroom was a red carpet, gave me 2 options. Option 1, press criminal charges. Drag them through court. Let the system chew them up and spit out a mugshot. Option 2, file a civil suit. Demand repayment. Get a court order. Keep it clean, silent. Honestly, Avery said, reviewing my file, they're broke. Option 2 gets you a piece of paper saying they owe you money. Option 1 gets you justice, and maybe closure. I didn't hesitate. File both. He looked up, surprised. You sure? They took everything from me, I said. I rebuilt it. They don't get to rewrite the ending. It was quiet for a moment. Then Avery nodded. Let's get started. The lawsuit made headlines in our hometown. Not because of who they were, but because of who I'd become. A strange tech entrepreneur suing his parents. It spread like wildfire. Old classmates messaged me with popcorn emojis. One even said, I always knew your family was weird. But Caleb? Caleb called me. I let it ring 5 times before answering. Are you really doing this? He asked, voice tense. I already did. He was silent on the other end. Then, they're freaking out. Good. Jason, look, I'm not defending what they did. I'm really not. But maybe this doesn't have to be public. Maybe we can settle. I cut him off. You didn't have my back when I was sleeping in stairwells. Don't ask me to protect them now that the lights are on. Click. The court date came faster than I expected. I walked in alone. Avery was already inside, reviewing notes like we were prepping for a Netflix miniseries. The courtroom smelled like old carpet and cold ambition. Then they walked in. My parents. They looked smaller. Not physically, just reduced. Like all their pride had been sucked out and replaced with panic. My mom wore a suit I hadn't seen since church days. My dad kept glancing around like he expected someone to rescue him. Nobody did. The judge took his seat. And then it began. Avery laid it out methodically, the credit card applications, the forged documents, the payments made to personal accounts. He explained my history, estranged since 17, no contact for 9 years. He didn't even dramatize it. Just presented facts like puzzle pieces. Clean. Sharp. My parents' lawyer, a man who looked like he had Googled how to defend fraud in 3 easy steps, tried to claim it was a misunderstanding. A family mix-up, he said. They thought the card was still active. They didn't realize it was under their son's name. The judge raised an eyebrow. So they didn't realize they committed a felony? The lawyer stammered. My mother looked like she wanted to melt into the vinyl bench. My father, though. He stood up. I don't regret it, he snapped. We gave him life. Food. Shelter. He owes us. This is what gratitude looks like. Dead silence. Even the court clerk stopped typing. Then I stood. Not to respond, but because I didn't need to. The judge had seen enough. We will reconvene for sentencing, he said. But let me be very clear, this is not a misunderstanding. This is theft. And the defendant's attitude only reinforces the need for accountability. Gavel. Court adjourned. My parents didn't look at me as I walked out. But Caleb did. He was sitting in the back, mouth open, hands shaking, and maybe, finally, understanding. 3 days after the court hearing, I got a message from a blocked number. It wasn't a call or a voicemail. Just a photo. It was my old childhood room. The one with the peeling posters, the twin bed with the sagging mattress, the window that never quite shut all the way. Empty. Totally cleared out. Under the photo was one line. "Hope you're happy." That was my mother's style. Passive-aggressive guilt packaged in a digital envelope. I didn't reply. But I did forward it to Avery. "Just in case," I typed. He replied 5 minutes later. "Standard intimidation. Don't engage." The same day, Caleb showed up unannounced. At my office. He walked in with the look of someone who had practiced his speech in the car, over and over, like he was auditioning for the role of remorseful brother. I didn't even stand up from behind my desk. He stayed standing. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. "You are," I replied, flipping my pen slowly. "Make it count," he exhaled. "They're losing it. Dad is talking about appealing. Mom hasn't left her room. I'm shocked they're both capable of guilt," I said flatly. "I'm not saying you're wrong," he added quickly. I'm asking if there's a path back. Not for them. For us." That caught me off guard. I looked at him, really looked. He wasn't the smug kid who used to call me tech boy in a mocking tone. He looked tired. Washed out. Like someone who finally understood what happens when you bet on the wrong horse and the whole track burns down. "I'm not interested in rebuilding a relationship with people who only remembered I existed when they needed help," I said. "But you?" "That depends." "On what?" I leaned back. "Truth." He sat. Finally. So I asked him, "Did you know about the cards? The accounts?" He hesitated. Just long enough to be noticed. Then, "I didn't know the full extent. But I knew Mom used your name once. For the phone bill. She said it was harmless." I stared at him. "And you said nothing?" He looked ashamed. "I didn't think it would go that far. And honestly, I think part of me didn't want to admit she was doing it." Silence settled like dust between us. "I'm trying to fix things," he said. I nodded slowly. "Then start by telling me what else you haven't said." He swallowed hard. Then told me that my parents had also tried to open a second line of credit 6 months ago, using a business EIN they claimed was linked to a company I started in college. The only reason it was denied was because of a mismatch in the listed revenue. They weren't just dipping into my personal life. They were trying to exploit my professional life too. "Send me the documentation," I said coldly. "I already did," he said. "Check your email." I paused, opened it, and sure enough, there it was. Screenshots. Emails. Even a voicemail forwarded from a lender where my mother had identified herself as my business partner. I felt like I was going to throw up. They didn't stop at ruining my name. They were trying to hijack my future. And the worst part? They had no shame about it. Caleb saw my expression and leaned forward. "I can't fix what they did," he said. "But I can keep it from getting worse. Let me help." I stared at him for a long, uncomfortable beat. "You want to help?" I asked. He nodded. "Then testify." His eyes widened. "Testify in court. On record. Swear under oath that they used my identity. That they manipulated me. That they lied." He looked stunned. Like he expected reconciliation, not responsibility. I don't know if I can." "Then get out." He didn't move. "Don't ask for my forgiveness," I added, "if you're not willing to give me the truth." After a long pause, Caleb finally stood up. "I'll do it," he said quietly. I nodded once. "Then we'll talk after." As he left, I didn't feel closure. I felt preparation. Because this war? It wasn't over. But I finally had a weapon my parents didn't expect. Their golden boy was flipping sides. Watching Caleb take the witness stand felt like stepping into a timeline I never thought existed. He sat stiff in the chair, not looking at me or our parents, just staring ahead like the courtroom walls were the only safe place. Avery leaned toward me and whispered, "If he folds, we'll pivot fast." I didn't blink. "He won't." The oath was spoken, and Caleb nodded, voice clearer than I expected. "I confirm the documents are real. I confirm my parents used my brother's name without consent." You could feel the air change. My mother's eyes widened, mouth slightly open. My dad stared at Caleb like he'd grown horns. Avery stood. "Mr. Moore, did you benefit from any of this?" "No. And I didn't know they were doing it, at first." "What changed?" He swallowed. "I overheard them talking one night. About using Jason's old college credentials. At first, I didn't think much of it. But then I saw a credit statement with his name on it." "Did you confront them?" "No. I was scared." He looked at the judge now. "I didn't want to believe they'd do something like this. I kept pretending it wasn't real. But it was." When he stepped down, he walked past our parents without looking at them. My mom was weeping into a tissue like she just watched a Shakespearean tragedy. My father muttered, "Disloyal. Ungrateful." Under his breath. The judge wasn't moved. She reviewed the evidence, signed applications, financial records, voice recordings. The stack of facts made it impossible for them to hide. After a long pause, she said, "This court finds in favor of Mr. Jason Moore. Restitution is ordered in full. All fraudulent accounts to be closed and removed from his credit. The defendants will pay $25,000 in damages." The gavel hit. That was it. My parents stood frozen. Not in shock, just in denial. The kind that calcifies after years of always being right, even when they were wrong. Outside, Caleb waited by the courthouse doors. "You okay?" he asked. "Are you?" He looked away. "They're going to make me the new villain now." I shrugged. "You'll get used to it." He laughed. Short and bitter. But not regretful. 3 weeks passed after the verdict. Long enough for my inbox to start filling again, not with spam or work, but with guilt-drenched messages from names I hadn't seen in nearly a decade. An Ann I barely knew emailed me a chain letter about honoring thy mother and father. An old neighbor sent a cryptic Facebook message. "They're still your parents, Jason. Don't let money ruin your soul." Funny. They didn't say that when my soul was sleeping in a stairwell, hungry and humiliated. I didn't reply. I didn't post. I just kept building. Avery handled the collections, the restitution, the paperwork. I buried myself in product launches, new hires, and the quiet satisfaction of watching my bank account heal faster than the wounds my parents left behind. Until the day I came home to find them waiting outside my building. Both of them. In person. No announcement. No call. Just standing there. My mom in a pastel cardigan like she thought dressing soft would make me forget everything. My dad in his faded coat, looking smaller than I remembered. I paused on the sidewalk. My first instinct? Walk past. But curiosity got the better of me. "Jason," my mother said, stepping forward. "Please. We just want to talk." "Then get a lawyer," I replied. "That's how we communicate now." My father's jaw twitched. "You're really okay destroying your family over some bank statements?" "No," I said. "I'm okay destroying your fantasy that I'll keep tolerating abuse just because we share DNA. We raised you," he snapped. "You kicked me out. We made mistakes," my mother cried. "But can't we move past them now? Start fresh?" I stared at her. "You didn't make a mistake. You made a decision. Over and over. At 17, you decided I was expendable. At 22, you used my name. At 27, you hoped I'd never notice. And now that I've got money, suddenly you're sorry." My mom started crying for real now, mascara running down her cheeks. You don't understand. She sobbed. We were scared. You left. We were falling apart. I didn't leave. I said. You locked the door. They stood there, silent, unraveling. Then my dad pulled a manila envelope from his coat and held it out to me. What's this? An offer, he said. I opened it. Inside, a handwritten letter and a cashier's check. 25,000. Exactly the amount they owed me. Consider it closure, my father said. I looked at him like he was offering me a gift-wrapped insult. You think paying me off fixes this? He shrugged. It's what the court asked for. I handed it back. You don't get to buy forgiveness. And then, softer. But you're going to need it where you're going. He stiffened. What does that mean? Caleb's filing, too. He paled. I gave him my lawyer's number. I added. Said he's got receipts. Years' worth. My mom looked like she was about to collapse. Please don't let him. I'm not letting him do anything, I said. That's the difference between you and me. I turned away. They didn't call after me. They just stood there, stuck in the same cycle. But I kept walking. And I didn't look back. 6 months later, I moved into a new place, downtown, quiet, sunlit, with more windows than walls. No one knew the address except a few close friends and Caleb, who now visited sometimes on Sundays with takeout and guilt in his eyes he hadn't yet learned to silence. He was working again. Different industry. Different energy. Therapy helped, he said. He was starting to understand how much of his personality had been shaped by survival in a house where truth was punished and silence was rewarded. He asked me once if I'd ever go back, to the old neighborhood, to see the old house, to check in on them. I just shook my head. You don't visit ashes, I said. You just build somewhere else. He didn't argue. My parents? I haven't heard from them since that final parking lot meeting. The check, the envelope, the useless offer of peace in the form of money they didn't have. I later found out they had to sell what little they had left to make it. The irony wasn't lost on me, scrambling to pay restitution to the son they told the world didn't deserve anything. I kept it. The check. Not the money. Avery filed it as proof they acknowledged guilt. But I kept the physical copy, framed it, hung it behind my office door. Not as a trophy. As a reminder. You can't always choose what you come from. But you can choose what you build after. One night, after a particularly long day of meetings and hiring calls, I sat alone in my living room. The city outside buzzed like a heartbeat. I poured a drink, leaned back, and just breathed. Not like I used to, tight, short, full of tension. But like someone who had finally made peace with silence. And in that silence, I thought about the 17-year-old version of me. The one standing on the porch, suitcase in hand, hearing his mother say, "You'll be back begging in a month." I wish I could speak to him now. I wouldn't tell him to toughen up. I wouldn't even tell him he was going to be okay. I'd just sit with him. Let him know he was worth staying for. That his future wasn't in that house. It was in every sleepless night, every dishwashing shift, every rejected pitch that led to a better one. And in the moment he stopped waiting for love to come from people who never knew how to give it. I didn't look back when I left that house at 17. And now, nearly 10 years later, I still haven't. I've built something better. Stronger. Mine. And that's the real revenge. Not the lawsuit. Not the money. But the quiet kind of power that comes from surviving the fire and learning how to build a home from the ashes. Not for them. Not with them. But without them.